Everyone has a life story to tell, but an incredible life story is shared and told differently.
It's Incredible Life Stories with Simon Kasyate. On the program, we get ordinary folks share their extraordinary life stories. But matter of fact, some of them are extraordinary, and so you can imagine how extraordinary their life stories are. But in all, we share incredible life stories, if for nothing else, to inspire many of you who find themselves in a circumstance like those of the folks that are sharing their stories have been through, and yet they have gone out of them unscathed, some scarred, but they are alive today to look back with the benefit of hindsight and share their life story. On the program tonight, I have an interesting gentleman, a man that many of you do not need a lot of introduction to, if especially you're the kind that reads our regular newspapers. His name is Hilary Bainemigisha. He's famously known as Dr. Love and runs a column in the New Vision and has been writing in the newspapers, including other newspapers, for quite a long time. Matter of fact, over 20 years. So, by all descriptions, you'd regard him as a journalist. But make no mistake, that's how we all know him to be. But is he actually a journalist today? Has he always been one? And that's his incredible life story on the program tonight. Welcome to Incredible Life Story with Simon Kasyate. Dr. Love, or do you prefer I call you the longer version, Hilary Bainemigisha?
I think I can go by anything. I'm glad to be here with you, Simon. Just a correction, I'm Bainemigisha, the plural version of Baino.
Aha.
Yes. I'm glad to be here and I'm glad to have been of value. I recently described myself as a 6-in-1 expert.
Okay.
I have been a teacher and I still meet my students, so that expertise of teaching I had.
Wow.
I have been a journalist. I was a journalist for long until I retired.
Do they ever retire?
They never
I thought one is always one forever.
Yes, I'm talking about a stint of office work within years. I've been a social worker. In fact, my master's degree is in social sector planning and management. I've been a counselor. I've been counseling couples right from 2002.
Wow.
I've been counseling couples. I still do. I'm now an entrepreneur. I run a company called Fona Health Foods. We are the proud producers of Aunt Porridge.
Oh, the very famous porridge that we see on the market lately.
Yes, we employ 38 people. It's now a big company. Last year we made a turnover of 3.4 billion.
Give me some money. I mean, when you start talking figures, I want to see the money flowing.
You should be asking me a dealership.
Distributorship.
Yes, things like that. A job.
Or to supply.
Consultancy, stuff like that. And lastly, I'm a publisher. I've published several books. My latest was unveiled in November last year. It's called 100 Strategies for Love, based on dates matter and not harder, which I'm actually happy that it got good reception and I've been selling. So with those things, those are the things that now describe me.
Described as a 6-in-1, yet you have 24 hours a day, like many people who can only be described as a 1-in-1 or sometimes even half-in-1. How are you able to pull off such a feat of being able to attend to all these different facets of your life and yet remain with a sober head?
Good question. Half of them I retired from, like social work, like teaching. As a publisher, of course, I have to sell my books. Counseling, I still do off my office work because we do that in the evenings and protractedly because I counsel relationships. So I have to meet both people, a couple. Meet separately first, then bring them together. So it's not a one-off unless it's preparing people for marriage.
Marriage, yes.
Because I meet once and we discuss coping. Do you know, Kasyate, people just get married. They don't know how to manage the change. Because marriage is a change.
Hilary, we come onto this earth without a user manual. You just find yourself here and we're through life. Marriage is one of those things, maybe.
That explains the disappointment people have in marriage. And for me, the passion is really the smile you return to a couple that was giving giving up. These days we have very many weddings. You can hardly get a slot in any church.
Or even one of these.
For the next 1 year. But there are very few marriages. They just wed, sleep together, have sex sometimes, children, but they are not married. They still stay their individual lives. Each one has their own investments, their own friends, their own programs, their own ambitions, their own plans. None knows the other. I tell you, I went for some special assistance to my real uncle. I wanted to reach him to help me, but I decided to go through my aunt, who was my relative.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I want your husband to help me. And she started saying, no, you go through Simon. Simon is his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
But you sleep with him.
You share a bed, you share a name, you share an
address. Why are you sending me somewhere to come when me I'm here? Ah, that man, he has his things. So are they married? Here we see them together sometimes in the church, even in the car, but people are not married. And okay, there are some things you avoid by staying individual, but there is a lot you lose by not working the system. You need to work the system and expose yourself sometimes to risk. A car cannot help you if it is parked. You need to drive it. Driving it can cause you an accident. But how will it help you if you don't drive it? Drive it.
Hilary, when we get down to the conversation on relationships, I'm sure I would spend all the time here until the cows come, because clearly you are a certified love doctor, so to put it. But that again leads me to ask you again, counseling on matters of relationships, which seem to be at the core of human existence, at least in our circumstances, and your ability to run a successful entrepreneurship stint as a business person, as a producer or products on the shelf, and then be able to run all the other facets actively, not any of them in retirement. That's where I would want you to take us. How are you able to balance it all?
Okay, now I am an owner of a business. Business
meaning more work, more responsibilities,
yes,
more stress.
And this is not office work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sleep over it, dream it. Sometimes you wake up to make some calls or calculations or plans, so it's a lifetime. And I think this is how life is supposed to be.
Hard.
In fact, if you look at before the white man came,
mm-hmm.
a herdsman was not an 8 to 5 job.
Mm-mm.
That you are at work and you're not at work. A smith, a hunter, it's a lifestyle. So
it was not a job.
It's not a job that you put office, then you have to leave office and you do other things that are not really. So I am in Aunt Porridge 100%. I am at home. When I'm at home, I am planning, I'm looking, how do I meet this one? Why didn't this one work? And for me, my workers know it. I can call you because you've given me a lot of reports and I didn't read through them. When I go home, I look through them. If my salesperson had a promise that if you give me 50 million, I will make you 50 million. If you give me 50 million, I'll make you 500. And I'm looking at the report and she made the 300. And I don't actually see. I have to call you there and then. What happened to our promise? Then say, you see, no. And you can't say, no, it's not working hours. It's not
working hours.
It is not a working. We are an enterprise. So I cannot say Aunt Porridge's time is this. Counseling, I can allot it time because I prefer in the evening hours and also in the public places because I've noticed private counseling and because we deal with love. These are emotional things. Someone can burst out and cry, then you have to hold them, you have to first say sorry. But when they are in public, people are there, they may control their emotions because these are emotional things.
Isn't that also a downside to that conversation where people are not free to fully express how they feel?
Because you might be, I'm a human being. Women usually cry. So if I go somewhere privately with you, what if you are a fraud and you want to claim that I made advances? Yes, so I have to protect myself. How do I make advances? In a public place, there are people.
So Aunt Porridge is 100% your time, 24/7.
Counseling.
The counseling,
yes.
You allot it some time.
Yes.
What led you there, Hilary? I mean, you were doing pretty well as a features editor, as a writer, as a journalist. and then you made this transition. And that's where we would want to understand the triggers that lead people to change vocations.
What led me there? Now, my wife is a food scientist. When she started her composite technology, Aunt Porridge is based on a composite technology.
Okay, what's composite? Now you're taking me.
Yes, composite technology is where you add several things to make one. Composite is several different units
components
into one. Yeah. So composite technology is where you add those complementary foods that will add value to each other, and you get a final homogeneous product that does not look like any of the constituents that made it. So it is much better because it has benefited
from the best of each of the components.
If you look at a choir is made up of different voices, soprano, tenor. When the choir sings and maybe there is an a cappella somewhere, it cannot compete with a single voice. Compare it with an army attacking. It needs intelligence, it needs aerial, it needs tanks, it needs infantry, it needs sometimes satellite. So you cannot defeat
sometimes
such a
journalism to hype it up.
Yes, journalism. And community work, factories to make food for the soldiers, to make ammunition and communicate. It needs the whole system. So a food is like that. One single, and even the science. For example, if you take millet alone, and this is the science, the millet has got values, nutrition in that millet, but the body cannot access all that because it's locked up. It's millet itself, the structure, the nutrients are locked up in certain. It's like a network of roads.
It's a molecular combo in there.
So if you take millet alone, you access 14% of what millet can give you.
So you need other food.
If you add it with cassava, the way our ancestors used to do to make kalo, it unlocks, cassava unlocks millet in such a way that you start getting 48% of the millet. Because there are certain ions which then blend with the cassava and then the body can access them.
Wow.
If you add there an amino acid that we get from meat or fish, you unlock millet to 90% because amino acids now make the body, make all the millet available for the body.
I'm not quite a fan of millet bread, but the way you've described it,
I wanted to say that.
You have really now heightened my appetite. I may want to try some kalo food.
Please do, and you see, that also shows if you want to get the best out of a food, even out of medicine, never take single. Combination therapy, combination therapy. ARVs are different medicines into one.
But put it to one.
Even malaria, it is combination therapy.
So here I can see you really got so sold in there.
Yes.
Because your wife technically and academically
explained it to me.
Explained it to you.
So, but I'm saying...
But remember, where you're coming from, journalism and other vocations also have their own composite arrangements.
Yes.
So I want like that tipping
That's where
point.
I'm coming from. The business thrived because people who used our composite flour, because we mix 12 different flours into one. The testimonies were a lot. By word of mouth, the business spread like fire, and it expanded beyond the abilities of
to
one
youth
person,
supply
of one person. So we tried to employ people to manage, others supervised remotely from office, and it was not really working. So I had to retire and come and be in it. Because being in a business, you can tell, even if it is a forest or it's a banana plantation or cows, you can tell where the owner is or where the owner is managing by remote. When you're there, you get instant solutions. When I was at New Vision, I would look at the books in the weekend and discover that some solutions where I would have used my face, they used money. See, if we get a problem with revenue, I go to revenue and they started, that's Dr. Love. Hey, are you Dr. Love? Are you sure? Hey, doctor, how do you get stories? Then we are going in arbitration, and the people who are admiring me are the ones going to sit with me. I've finished 50% of the problem.
Absolutely.
So I have made a name that the business needed to take advantage of. So that where I would have used the money, I used my cloud, I used my network. So the business was lacking that. So now I had to come in. Then journalism, the ability to express yourself, the platforms, and also the knowledge. As a journalist, you have skills, you have an audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the business needed. All businesses need visibility. All businesses need, like now I can explain to composite technology.
In a manner that I, who is not very technical in that
I can use
aspect.
similes. I'm telling you about a choir, about an army. These are the skills I learned in journalism, communication. And I know I have a network of friends in journalism. If I want publicity and visibility, it's much easier.
To get it at zero cost.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
maybe.
Or at least a much less cost.
Yes, so
than
now
someone
I've explained
just,
to you how I migrated to this bit. And now when I came, I discovered I should have come earlier. But it is a fulfilling thing to see that you have a product that's moving, you can employ more people, you can do problem solving on a daily basis. Daily basis. You are moving this way, there is a snag, there is a problem with the vehicle, there is a problem with the system,
taxman,
there is a
the
problem.
machinery,
Then somebody
supplies.
wants, some UN guy wants to see you, he wants to buy in bulk, you have to stop your daily program because this is a referral that will buy in bulk and maybe for a long time you have to go to attend to him, but he wants you to do tests on your food, then you have to run to URI or Makerere University or wherever to do these tests. But you know the excitement, I'm breaking through, I'm going to get this deal. But I have made an appointment with Kasyate. We shall meet at noon to do this. At 10, World Food Program says, we've looked at your profile. Can we look at your food? Do you have time in one hour? I can't go to see Kasyate.
You weigh your options.
Business. I tell Kasyate, can we meet another time? No, I'm traveling to US next. If you don't meet me now, you have to wait for... I say, okay, you'll wait. Then I go and see this.
Well, I will not keep you waiting. We just have to take a little break here on the program. When we return, we talk more about this incredible life story that you're currently living. Of course, that's not where the story ends. Matter of fact, like you said, the frontiers keep pushing forward. And so you can't say you are the best now or you're there where you want to be. It's a continuous aspiration. Incredible life stories with Simon Kasyate. We'll be right back after this short break.
Everyone has a life story to tell, but an incredible life story is shared and told differently.
Hilary Bainemigisha.
Great.
A man popularly known as Dr. Love, because you write about these issues, you counsel couples that are faced with circumstances that may require some, more hands on deck. But also now you are knee-deep into entrepreneurship and very specifically your value addition into the food value chain. But that's not where the story began, Hilary. Who are you? When were you born? Where were you born?
Yeah, that's a good question. People ask me, how old are you? And I said, but my beard grew later. So who is I? My teeth, I was not born with. So my cells change every time. So I can't be this age old. I am different age.
In different ages.
But that's a good question. When was I born? I was born in 1967.
That's very recent. You're a young man, as they would say.
No, my body doesn't think so. But my life journey started in 1966. When my mother and my father looked at each other and said, why not? So
with you as an intention or you came in as an accidental?
That's when life, my sperm fused with the ovule and then I started life.
I love it when you describe it from first principles.
Yes. It was on Independence Day.
When you were conceived?
Yes. October 9th, 1966.
How do you know this for a fact, Hilary?
Biology. Because
you are working backwards.
You count 9 months later.
I thought it was all tradition.
And the word became flesh. And dwelt among us. So I was born during Obote 1. So I've seen Obote 1, I've seen Amin, I've seen Obote again.
You've seen them all?
I've seen Binaisa, I've seen Lule, I've seen...
There were the three presidents that
I've
were
seen
there
Mwanga,
there were these three presidents for the
yes.
commission?
I've seen Museveni. Museveni is the one who has now occupied all this time. But I've been there for a long time.
Where was this that you were born, and to the best of your recollection, take us with a vivid description of your
I was
childhood?
born, actually, I took interest to study anything. I was born a few minutes past midnight.
Wow.
On the 10th of July. So 10th had just started. So like 35, 12:35.
Wow.
In Rohoko, and I have gone there and donated something because it was the hospital through which I stepped into this world. Now
Wow.
it is a health center. So I was born I was the first boy. At that time, my mother had 2 daughters. And at that time, a boy was precious.
The pearl of
And I was
hope.
saying, the parents really want. That's why they said we are lucky. The boy has come.
Because had you been another girl,
Eh.
I say, now this woman is not...
So now when I came, I was very welcome. I was baptized 6 days after born. Yes.
What was the rush, Hilary?
My
Were you
parents
so
were
sickly that
religious.
they did not expect
I
you
was
to...
healthy. I was a healthy boy.
It shows.
Actually, I was almost a twin to my sister because the sister I follow, my mother became pregnant when she was 4 months.
Say that again.
So I was that tough. I really was rearing to
You,
enter this
you
world.
were dying to get up.
My sister was 4 months, then I entered. I said, hey, it's my
4 months
time.
already born, or
Yes,
4 months in
old.
the womb?
No, 4 months old. 4 months old. So 9 months. So we are in between 15 months.
Wow.
So she had to stop breastfeeding, of course. Then I come in, then I'm a boy. Then of course I'm worshipped. When you have 2 girls ahead of you, you know how they
You get spoiled.
Me, when I grew up, I was even putting on dresses because they even thought I looked like a girl.
A girl.
But then maybe I did because I studied in single-sex schools, and when we would do drama,
You were always the one chosen
girl.
to be the guy.
The girl.
Because you had the mannerisms of your sisters.
I don't know, maybe I looked like a girl that time. Until senior 3 when my voice now
Broke.
and I could no longer be a girl. So anyway, then I grew up in a loving family. At that time, my parents were the elites of society. My mother had got her degree from Leicester University.
You're kidding me.
My father had been in Dundee, Scotland, for his degree. So we had a car. In 1967, that was really elite.
You were not just elite, you were up there.
We were up there. And
where was this? Where were you located? Which in the capital city, Kampala? But you
no,
said Choko.
that time, actually, I don't know whether we needed Kampala. Kampala was that place that people rarely went to. My parents were both tutors. When I was born, they were tutors in a college. And that was big because a college, a TTC is where they produced teachers
who were one of the most revered.
Wealthy. So when you go to a village, a teacher had a lion roof, had a bicycle. So my parents were the ones
producers.
making the wealthy.
Explains why they had a car, not a bicycle.
Yes, and
which TTC was this?
Uganda TTC.
Wow, that's in Western Uganda.
In Western Uganda. And I remember like once in a month we would drive to Mbarara, have an outing there. My mother was born in Mbarara, so her father was a judge. That's why he managed to take a daughter through school up to outside. And the problem, by the way, was my mother spent longer in school. That when she came from Leicester, nobody could marry her.
She was too accomplished.
She was out of range for many men. And then she was too accomplished. She would manage.
And she was the judge's daughter.
And my mother would put on many dresses. She would smoke a cigarette. She would cross her legs, which was abominable in her college. But she would do all those. She was very empowered.
So how brave was this
father,
gentleman called your father?
My father was a brother. In the Catholic Church, we have brothers who celibates, but religious people, for 7 years. Then he got out.
He said this is
When
good,
he
but
got out, he was old. It was a good double coincidence. He was older than my mother. He had also been exposed. He had been to Dundee. He had actually worked in Tanzania, in Rwanda, in DRC, now in Uganda.
So
He was a celebrated footballer. He was on the team of the Western Province. That time we had province. He even played in the Gossage Cup. So his name was...
He
so
had
now,
a name and face recognition.
the church actually, because my father would play the organ in church. My father, the father of my mother would play the organ in
Your
church.
grandfather,
So the
yes.
church said, but we can get this man for your daughter. Because you remember those days, the marriage was even arranged by...
At a layer higher than the
above,
people getting
yes.
married. Yes.
Then they come and say, but... Yeah. So then the two met. I think they liked each other. And that was a miracle because my mother was not going to be married.
She wouldn't have been.
And
Well,
my
we don't know that
father
for a fact.
would have ended up with a person who would not compliment him because both were exposed, both had traveled, both were educated, and you know that time too, the man was everything.
So, Hilary, if I get you right,
they played a partnership in marriage.
in the 60s into the 70s, you're the kind of children that lived in homes where margarine was not.
Yes, we ate bread, we ate rice, we put on slippers in the
You
house.
wore shoes
We
to
wore shoes
school.
to school. When it rained, the car came to pick us.
Or at least you
When
had
the
an
others were
umbrella.
putting on a banana
Banana leaf.
leaf to move. So we were privileged.
Didn't that then also perhaps change your outlook to life, or maybe put you at a level where your socialization with peers, would-be peers,
Was not. No. We were just 4 children. At the time when everyone was telling my father, you have money, how can you have
4 children, others have a
Or
dozen.
even one wife. What's wrong with you?
Have another wife.
Yes. But those are the only 4, and we have all grown. None of them died. So
That's tremendous.
yes. And then we were staying in quarters. And in quarters, there were several other tutors. And the tutors had children. So we had
And
our
one
pictures,
big family.
one big socializing event. And then we went to the same school, which was a demonstration primary school for the TTC.
For the TTC.
So we socialized like that. And then in the holidays or big days, Easter, Christmas, we would go to our village in Rubindi. Where there it was difficult because that was when I would see naked kids.
The ones with the shorts that have holes at the back.
Or even
They
no
look like
shorts or,
they are just
because
wearing
it
one
was-
long sweater, but no
those
shorts.
days, children will put on clothes after maybe getting pubic hair or something. But our excitement was going to the well, going to touch cows. And then they would tell us about cows, we wanted to go with them grazing, we would
go to a garden.
My parents would give us shoes, the others would go, and they were thorns.
Their feet are grinding stones and you
and
cannot even
thorns,
step on grass.
And there are these plants which even itch when but for them they were having it easy. But we had now that exposure. But we'd always wonder, these people didn't know that there was a country like Kenya or Rwanda. They were living in that village. Even their concept of a country, that we are in a big country like Uganda wasn't clear. So for us, we were telling them that this is a village within a bigger district and a bigger province and a bigger country. There are other countries like this and other continents, and they were mesmerized. Where I was staying, we had electricity.
So you watched
in
television?
The village, there was no electricity. These people didn't know what electricity was, that you can just switch on
and the light comes up.
So we had
To
our
extinguish the
stories
light
of our
uses.
world that made us celebrities among them, but they also had their stories.
That made them revered.
Yeah.
You looked at them as
They knew
heroes.
each bird by its name and its behavior. They knew each tree, each shrub. They knew that if you see these birds, probably there is a snake in that tree. They knew all these
And they
things.
didn't need a
So
watch till the time. They
No.
just looked at the sun
Yeah,
and
they
said,
said,
now this is the lunchtime.
So they impressed us as we impressed them. It was just like
A mutually beneficial.
source of education.
Wow.
Source of education. So then soon after I went to P5, I went to a seminary to become a priest.
To become?
a priest.
Your father intended that his firstborn son goes to
Yes.
complete the journey he himself did not complete.
And I
Wasn't
didn't
that a
know-
bit of selfish?
No, I didn't even know
Oh, it
how,
was sacrifice.
how serious it was
Mhm.
until when we were burying my mother. Later, much later, in grief, when my father was giving a speech, she said, me, I failed to become a priest, and I really wanted Hilary to be a priest. I felt like, oh my God, if I had known he was this serious
I would have
about
pursued
it,
him.
maybe. But anyway, I did not live on my own. They thought I couldn't manage. They expelled me. I would have been maybe a bishop by now.
Well, maybe, okay, Monsignor, Cardinal.
But Simon, you see how the world is sinful. If I had been a priest,
You would
I
have.
would have had all these sins.
How
Because
do we-
that's the use of priests.
How do we
Now
resist
they
for a
chased
fact
me
here?
out of there, but
Now
they
see-
can't manage. See how sin is overtaking the world.
How about these things have no reverse gear? At this point in our
no,
time,
now I am married. I have
yeah, you say, okay, fine, you forfeit this, and then go back and serve the Lord.
Okay, now, that's jokes aside. I went actually up to a minor seminary,
Tremendous. Which one is this?
Chitavi Seminary,
Mhm.
in Bushenyi.
Beautiful old school
Yeah,
seminary.
still up to now.
Mm.
And the rector thought I was not cut out for priesthood.
What exactly, in your view, was it about you that you want to
You
share?
see, what is funny, these priests were products of Bazungu grooming. And Bazungu would expel on whims.
on the
So
slightest.
the university, the seminary would recruit 70 students, but
When
bring
the-
out only 2 priests. So they knew that my role is to send away to make sure we get fewer. You know, the Bible says so many are called, but few are chosen.
Exactly.
Because now we are able as OBs to influence the running of the seminary because we contribute money.
Mm.
So we tell them and say, you priests you are not enough. You cannot say the world is so bad, you Christians are so bad that out of 70 you get 2. In fact, that's poor grooming by you. How can you fail in 68? For me, by the way, when they say a tax has crashed, 11 people have died. 1 has survived. Praise the Lord. How? God has failed to save 11 and he has saved only 1.
Hilary,
How do you praise
you
the
now
Lord?
don't need to explain to me why you never became a priest, because
No,
you
you
are
see,
questioning conventional.
it's mathematics. Mathematics
When you bring science to question divinity, then clearly you are not
No,
cut out for priesthood.
honestly, if you are a
But they
priest,
don't-
they give you 70 people to groom into priesthood and you only get 2. It's not that they are bad.
That's not-
it's
that's
that
not a
you
success
are a
on
poor
you.
groomer. You have failed in the 68.
Here, before we go in for a break, tell me,
Yes.
what exactly was written on your expulsion letter out of the seminary?
I have told you everything about myself.
No, that
Now,
expulsion
because I
letter.
have children and grandchildren who I would kill if they did the same. So let them not
Let's
know.
just know.
But let's say, because what I committed is not what they wrote on my recommendation.
Okay.
The recommendation said that we've realized that his vocation is not in priesthood. Please, whoever it may concern, assist. That's the one I went to St. Joseph's in Nyamtanga to get a place to study, to continue my education.
And they also accepted you in? Because they
Of course.
almost...
Oh,
they
you
almost-
know I was an asset. I was a football player. And when
Like
they
your father.
expelled me, I was everything. I was a drama, in debate, in football, in the band, in a brass band. In fact, one time as a seminary, we used to have inter-seminary games. We went to play with St. Paul's in Kabad.
Before us.
So they scheduled the basketball the same time with the football. We rioted. Why? Because Hilary was playing in both. How could you do this? We are not playing this. They had to change the whole program because I was in a volleyball team, basketball team, and football team. I was an asset. So when they expelled me,
The school-
they had scheduled the football game with another school. They had to cancel it because Hilary had left. Now when I came to this, everyone was happy. Hilary is coming.
You were
I
an
came
asset.
straight into the team
And got in.
and got in.
Hilary, let's take a break. But when we return from this break, you will be telling us, I find it a travesty that a man who spent much of his very formative years in seminary and also in a single-sex school eventually turns out to be the man we revere as Dr. Love. So the transition is quite very interesting. But we'll be right back. It's Incredible Life Stories with Simon Kasyate.
Everyone has a life story to tell, but an incredible life story is shared and told differently.
Perhaps what makes some of our stories incredible is the fact that we come to you on several platforms, but most importantly, if you're watching us off YouTube, subscribe so that you can get into a whole new world of several other incredible stories that we have so far had and the many that we are yet to have. And if you're catching us on the Uganda Broadcasting Corporation TV, that's the place to be at every 9 o'clock on Sundays. Hilary, primary school, you were in a single-sex school.
Sure.
You went to a seminary, single-sex.
Up to, even when I went
When
to
you went to St. Joseph's, single-sex.
Yes.
Okay, you had sisters, that's understandable, but that's filial love. You may want to take us to your experience, first time you walk into a class and there is females that are not teachers.
It was an incredible experience. I started studying with girls at university. And it really destabilized me. For me to sit near a sweet-smelling girl, and actually they used me a lot because girls used
in
to
what
be
context?
There. Girls
Okay.
used to be there. So when the lecturer would go, they would say, I didn't get this guy. Does anyone have notes? I was so willing to help. I even used to write notes for girls. Then I deliver the notes in their rooms. Then
You are running errands.
when I would see a guy being rode to a girl, I was like,
So, Hilary, what? So, to you, when you saw these girls for the first time with you as peers,
and I was in an not post-adolescent because I studied while I was young. So by
so you were in
campus,
the
I was still
center
within
of your adolescence and puberty.
yes. But they destabilized me so much that I was always uncomfortable for a girl. I had this urge to be a nice, good person towards them. Until now, I started learning through mistakes. Because girls used to visit me and I would exhaust my budgets entertaining them. But when I would visit them, I would sit and nothing happened. Not even a drop of water. You converse for an hour, you come back as dry. Then I started saying, but it's not fair.
This is
You
something-
come and I buy bread. Bread was at that time.
What was
I
the
buy
thing?
bread, I buy sodas, I come to you.
That was as good as KFC.
Not even a couple.
You realize
I
the
started
manipulation?
realizing that no, things is not
This
fair.
gender is manipulative.
But now the three, because our campus, we had money.
And what course were you studying at the university for me?
I was given education. I wanted to do law, but I was dropped into education. So I just decided to become a teacher. And my parents had been
teachers, exactly.
So I actually graduated as a teacher at a time when Obote had made so many HSCs and they were not teachers. So we came as graduate teachers. And I actually went to Bushenyi and I was teaching in 4 different schools at the same time. So where I was posted, I taught to them.
Which school?
I was posted in Mitoma. It's called Ruhinda Secondary School.
Yes.
But I was staying at Chitavi Seminary. Now I went to Chitavi and they
As a
allowed me
teacher.
to teach.
As a teacher?
So that's where I was staying. Because they had better facility.
Absolutely.
So I would ride a bicycle, teach in Ruhinda, teach in St. Kagwa, teach in Bishop Oje, and teach also at Chitavi Seminary. Teaching the same thing. So by the second school, you'd be teaching from your head.
From your head. And
So the students used to think that I am a body of knowledge, but for me, I would have taught it already. But I didn't want them to have the same notes. So I would give them notes from my head because the sentence construction cannot
be the same.
You
Yes.
just know you are explaining a composite volcano, so you put it in your own words. So when they compare notes, they are not the same.
But the gist.
The gist is the same because students would know. Maybe as a brother in Kagwa,
Ah,
he goes and copies notes because schools can't go at the same pace.
Yes.
So I taught there, and several schools used to make some command at that time. Because at that time, were the people with the TV, for example, black and white TV. And when you had a TV in Rushen, you needed a mast.
And near your house,
So everyone would
knew
know that
in that house
yes,
is a TV.
They would even come because TVs were on the evening. Crowd in your house to watch TV.
The news, the football game, and all that, and then go out.
And then some girls would pretend they are sleeping and stay while others have gone, stuff like that. But eventually,
you had quite the magnet.
You'd see that your colleagues who had stayed now have black and white. They have color. They have good sofa sets. For you, you are staying
this little.
But yet you like make more money. They are telling you how Kampala is expensive. But because you are big in your village,
you were big fish in a small pond.
Yes, you tend to be comfortable. But in Kampala, they are progressing fast. They are thinking of buying lots in Kampala when you think it is out of range.
You're rich.
But they tell you how much they earn. Government was also not paying us. My first salary was 6,000.
Okay, which is the equivalent of how much today you think?
I don't
well, it's still 6,000 anyway.
But there was PTA. PTA was actually big. In St. Kagwa, they were paying us like 30,000. In Seminary, which was not a government school, they were paying me like 20,000. So when I would gather, I would
you have your like 100,000.
And it was a lot of money. So then I decided after like 3-4 years to come back to Kampala because I thought Kampala people were always challenged to be better than the other side. And it was a good move because I was being ring-fenced into getting married, and you have run out of excuses. Your mother, your father saying, what next?
And they've already arranged for you potentials around this place.
So I ran back to Kampala.
So you came into what we call, Kampala became a bit of a safe haven, giving you sanctuary and exile from the pressures of marriage.
I actually came into a job because I thought teaching was bringing us money, but other people outside teaching looked like they were doing better. So I came, and also every year, new graduates will come. So our monopoly was reducing. So you are in 4 schools, then one say, unless you are a permanent, because we've got a permanent.
Exactly.
So you can't be permanent, now you remain with
3.
Next year you remain with 2. And the money is reducing. So you say, teaching will no longer do. So I came back to Kampala. I worked in National Water for a few months before the interview for that job. So when the interviews came, they posted me to Lira. They were starting a Lira branch. My relative said, you can't go to Lira. There was insurgents. You get out, they give you a job. I resigned. There was no job. They would get me. So I also looked for schools to teach in. I went back into teaching. Then we broke away, we started the school. When we started the school, my colleagues fleeced me out of, we were 5, the 3 were organized thieves. They edited us in a way, they colluded and they registered the school without us. So we went to court. They told us to settle out of court. Because there was a lot of animosity then, they preferred to give us money and we leave, so they gave us money. And now I was already school director, I couldn't go back to teaching. So I used that money actually.
To set up another school?
To go out of the country.
Agenda.
I left Uganda in 1995 and came back in 2000.
5
years.
Where did you go?
I went to Japan.
And married still?
No, I had married.
That's okay now. Because I was going to say now, so you go to Japan, that was the in thing, go and make money.
That was the in thing. Japan had Cheyo. I transformed my life. I bought a house in Kampala, I started the spare business, I had 2
What
minibuses.
exactly were you doing in Japan now? They say the devil is in the detail.
And Japan actually introduced me to journalism. When I reached Japan, I saw the way people in Uganda thought we had hit the jackpot. And yet we were sweating blood and
iron and blood marrow. Was it? Yes.
I wanted to demystify the Cheyo. So I wrote to New Vision and said, can you allow me
A column.
a column to write about what we are going through? We discussed the concept and they allowed. So I started writing a column in Kubache.
That was you.
That was me. I wrote that column throughout and it became popular this side. The other side, I didn't want people to know me.
Because they start avoiding
because I
you
was
because
telling
telling
them
their
the
stories. You know, you were telling here.
On Cheyo, they would go to the boss's office, take pictures and send to wives. This is my office. Yet we are in Karibu. We are in chicken dam with the spades and what? All this. But I wanted people to appreciate that we were suffering. So even when they are eating our money,
They do
they
so
know,
aware
yeah,
that
that these people are, but you see, you send money, what it's supposed to do, it doesn't do. Then people are having fun, they are going out every day.
when you are hard-earned money.
Hard-earned. And because the Chayo people are giving an impression that we were
Okay.
So me, I started doing a diary of a Chayo person. That thing introduced me to journalism. So, in fact, Sepuya, who was
An editor at New
came
Vision.
to Japan, to Tokyo. I was generally promised a job. Once you come, you just come to New Vision. You are a good writer. So I left in 2000, came back.
So after sweating plasma,
In
you
fact,
say,
after 5 years, my body was exhausted. I was moving on my spirit.
oh dear.
My spirit was saying, just 1 year. First finish this, but the body
I had given up.
exhausted. We were working hard. I went to Japan, I was 75,
Kilogram.
but I cut to 50. But then, towards the end, I went to a job where I grew through ranks and became a foreman. And there were 22 Africans, we had Bangladesh, we had Brazilians, we had the Indonesians, and I was governing all of them. And as a result, I thrived. Then I started putting on some kawi. By the time I came,
You were looking presentable at least.
and when I reached here, I was a celeb. I had 2 taxis, I had 3 rollings, okay, 2 tippers and 1 lorry. The lorry was giving me 500,000 per week.
All of which you had sent while you were in Japan, or they had bought
No,
you?
I had sent over time, like I would send vehicles. Actually, I would send vehicles. My wife would sell and send me the money. I would now buy vehicles and add my salary, send more, like that. So we started that business. We bought a house. We became a good family. So I came when I knew that with the business I had, I would have this quality of life.
Quality of life, yes.
I came back. I found actually the people I left in the school had also quarreled with me. They had broken out.
So you were saying, I made my decision.
Yeah, so then now when I came back, I started a business of spare parts. I would go back to buy spares. But I was still naive. I was really not into GI
Business, yes.
Here the business was where if someone cheated you, then he's the clever one.
Of course,
But me, the seminary background was still within me. I made several losses. And then I discovered that I won't manage. So
this is
back
not good.
to remind them of the promise that if I come back. That's how I got my. But New Vision gave me a job at the same time when I had started masters, my masters at university. So the New Vision.
And what were you mastering in?
Masters of social sector planning and management. Now, when I was in Japan, I joined the Jehovah Witnesses just to have a network. So they needed a person with masters, and I didn't have papers, so I couldn't study from there. So they advised me, you go back to your country, do this masters. When you finish, come back. So I came back and immediately enrolled. Meanwhile, I had business, and then business failed. Then I went to New Vision for a job. Then the New Vision said, you cannot be on probation while you study. You must first leave one of them. I went to the monitor. I said, you are the one writing Kubache. If we give you a job, will you stop? I said, I will do. I kept on writing Kubache when I was here. Because the story was following me by several months. You understand? I would be writing like 3 months ago. So now I was writing towards I'm coming back home. The monitor gave me a job. I started working with the monitor and finishing my master's.
And like they say, the rest is history. Let's get down to knowing you a little bit more, Dr. Love. Oftentimes they say you are the one who tells us here in Love that the fastest route to a man's heart is through his stomach. What is your best dish? If I want to get to your heart, what should I prepare? Kalo?
My best dish, yes, is kalo. And throughout time, it has been kalo and chicken. That partnership. And I even discovered that's where I get the most. But I do not want to make it a daily dish because it might lose its
mystic
I
thing
really
around.
need it to be a big day meal. Yes.
I struggle to get the combination of millet and chicken. Maybe because the soup and how.
Yeah, maybe you don't know how to eat kalo. Kalo has a traditional eating.
How do they do it?
You make a bowl. You put a hole in it. You call it a nogo. Then you
scoop the soup.
Now, when you put it in the mouth, you don't chew. Kalo is not chewed.
What do you mean? No. How then do you savor the flavor? How do you?
Yeah, now when you just
swallow it.
It's movement down your throat.
Is
oiled by that soup. It's the beauty.
Well, I thought sometimes you chew it to cool it because some of it is always hot. Anyway, I'll come for culinary lectures on how to eat kalo.
Yeah, actually, we are in a time when our tradition is going fast. We had dishes that are no longer here. And dishes that had their own special.
Burger King, KFC, and other places showed up here. Hilary, how do you wash down your favorite dish?
I have been an alcohol person through beers because I find spirits. I was a weak-headed man. And actually, I cannot handle like a club. Those you see, beer. We have beers that are brewed with malt and those brewed with sugar. When you see like Tuscalay.
Now I'm going to charge you for advertising specific brands, but they all have names.
Okay, all beers that are in green small bottles, they are not processed by sugar. They are processed by malt. Malt is like grown barley, ammonia of barley. It is organic, but creates the sugar that is required. The shortcut is to use processed sugar, which that's why you find like Club, Bell, Nile. It's half liter, but costs the same as this 300 because malt is expensive, but malt is healthy. So instead of taking the direct sugar beer, I take the malt beers.
Okay, I have a conversation with my people at the breweries because they give me, I'm one of those who takes the other big brown bottles. I love my quantities. But they normally have a sign now there, no sugar added.
No,
they are like, it's marketed.
Sugar is an important ingredient in the breweries. Now when you look, hops, malt actually is sugar, but it's organic.
Organic sugar.
Which, you see, processed sugar makes the brewery easier, but it goes directly
But let me ask you, Hilary.
But malt takes time to be processed. It's a disaccharide. So
you've become so much of a food scientist that I want to ask a broader question. Are you that very critical of the things you eat that you make a choice of what you eat or drink on the basis of its chemical composition, on its...
Okay, now I'm going to tell you. I am 113 kilos.
Okay.
When I go to a doctor, they look at me and say, but Dr. we thought you are a very brilliant person. Why do you allow yourself to be this unhealthy? You are obese. You are one step away from diabetes, from pressure. I don't have these things. I have done a lot of things, but I don't lose weight. I am active. I am agile. I don't eat supper. I don't eat sugar, but I am this weight. I don't know. But I've lived in the US. I lived in Canada. Even in Japan, we had obese people, but they lived to 70, 80s. So now I imagine that the body is an adjusting machine. But I don't tempt it. I don't give it processed sugars. I try, but I give it sugars because we need sugars through organic sugars so that the body processes and they come with a lot of roughage such that it is regulated by the body the way it enters the blood.
You don't end up like me, who was around your side
I
not long ago.
admire you. I look at you and I want to know what you did because I have done what people did and I have failed to lose weight.
I'll give you my tips off the camera.
Please, I would, especially if it is free of charge.
That one, I will not charge you.
Yes.
We'll have a swap deal. I'll get some Aunt Porridge and then I can take you.
Yeah, but I really admire you people. I want to be there. I know that that is life. I am now going into the 60s, but with this weight, I'm likely to have a lot of challenges.
Well,
so that's
worry.
why I really have to learn the way food works. And now my exposure in Aunt Porridge has really helped me know all these things. And at least I can slow down.
But wait a minute, as we conclude, you said Aunt Porridge, and for me it sounds like ANTI porridge, which is against porridge.
Yes.
How did you come up with the anti-porridge, which we believe must have had something about an aunt or something?
Yeah,
you know how we love aunties in this part of the world. But from a branding perspective, and you being a journalist, you know that some homophonic sounds may sound as an antithesis to what you're looking for.
Some people write it anti, others write it ant, the insect.
Exactly.
But it is ant the singer. And the reason it became Aunt Porridge was that at that time when my wife used to go with our kid for immunization, and her kid was always better looking. And they said, but can't you tell these mothers how you feed your child? And she started explaining.
Should have just told them you should see the father.
Explaining how you blend foods, and the mothers, you know them. After the twagara ruzungu, just make for tuja kugura. So she started making and selling. Then it became popular. She started selling in corporates, parking lot of Centenary Bank, of Bank of Uganda.
But it had no name.
No, they started calling her. It had no name, but they started calling her Aunt Porridge. Aunt Porridge wafo jayodi. Aunt Porridge ngataze. Aunt Porridge so kulava. So when we decided to go commercial,
he said, why drop our name?
Drop the name by which you are known. That time there was only Facebook. And she had started a Facebook platform where to have an identity, she called it Aunt